The lights beneath Hangar 9 flickered without warning, and for a moment the metal giants above seemed to breathe. Auric Vane froze with a wrench in his hand. The sound came again, low and deep, like a sleeping beast shifting its weight. He slowly looked up. Rows of dragon-shaped war machines rested on massive clamps, their steel wings folded tight, their heads lowered like statues made for fear. Most people avoided this place when the lights failed. Auric did not run. He was used to being alone here. Auric was only a stable boy, though no one called him that anymore. Officially he was a maintenance cleaner. He swept oil spills, replaced broken cables, and hauled scrap metal away so engineers would not dirty their boots. He slept in a narrow room under the hangar floor, close enough to hear the hum of the machines even in his dreams. Above him, the dragons were silent weapons of the Sky Dominion. Each one was built with living metal, guided by ancient code and alien power cores. Only trained commanders were allowed near them. Auric was invisible enough to be ignored. That night the hum changed. Auric felt it in his chest first. The air grew warm. His wrench slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a sharp sound that echoed too loudly. He held his breath. "All right," he whispered, though no one was there. "Easy now." The words came naturally, as if spoken to a nervous animal. The lights went out completely. Emergency strips along the floor glowed red. Somewhere above, clamps unlocked with heavy clicks. Auric's heart pounded. A system failure like this would bring guards running. He should hide. He should leave. Instead he stepped forward. The nearest dragon was larger than the rest. Its metal scales were dark, almost black, with thin lines of faded gold. Engineers called it Unit A9. Pilots called it cursed. It had never accepted a rider. Auric had cleaned beneath it for years. "I know," Auric said softly, unsure why he spoke. "I felt it too." A sound answered him. It was not a roar. It was closer to a breath, deep and slow, moving through metal lungs. The dragon's eyes lit up, not red like the others, but a calm amber glow. Auric's knees weakened. "No," he whispered. "You're not supposed to wake." The dragon lowered its head. The movement was careful, controlled, as if it feared hurting him. Data symbols flickered across its neck plates, running too fast for human eyes. Auric did not understand the symbols, yet somehow he understood the feeling behind them. Confusion. Loneliness. He took another step forward. "I won't touch," he said. "I just want to listen." The dragon tilted its head. The hangar trembled slightly as its weight shifted. Other machines remained still, dark and lifeless. Only this one responded. Auric placed his palm against the warm metal of its jaw. The moment his skin touched it, the noise vanished. No hum. No alarms. No warning lights. Instead, Auric felt a rush of images that were not his own. Skies burning with strange stars. Voices shouting commands without care. Pain shaped like numbers and codes forced into something that could feel. He pulled his hand back, gasping. The dragon did not move away. "I'm sorry," Auric said, breath shaking. "They don't ask. They never ask." He did not know who they were in that moment. Engineers. Commanders. The Dominion. Maybe all of them. Footsteps echoed in the distance. Guards shouting. Systems rebooting. The dragon's eyes dimmed slightly as if it understood the danger. Its head lifted back toward its resting position, slow and silent. The clamps began to close again, locking it in place. Before the light faded fully, something pressed into Auric's mind, gentle and clear. Name. Not a designation. Not a number. A name. Aurelian. Auric staggered back as power surged through the hangar. White lights snapped on. Screens flashed green. The other dragons powered up as if nothing had happened. Guards rushed in, weapons raised. Engineers followed, shouting orders. "What did you do?" one of them yelled at Auric. Auric stood still, hands raised. "Nothing," he said truthfully. They scanned the machines. All systems were normal. No damage. No alerts. One engineer frowned at Aurelian's readout. "That's odd," he muttered. Unit A9 stabilized itself. The commander snorted. "That thing never does anything right. Scrap it someday." Auric felt a tight pain in his chest, but he lowered his head and said nothing. He was dismissed without another glance. Later, alone again beneath the hangar, Auric lay on his narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. The hum above him felt different now. Softer. Where? He closed his eyes. In the quiet, a single thought brushed his mind, steady and patient. Not a command. An invitation. And far above, among the metal beasts of the Sky Dominion, one dragon waited for a boy no one had ever seen. Alric woke before the hangar lights as if the room itself knew he could not sleep. The memory of Aurelian's amber eyes burned in his mind. No one would understand. No one ever understood him. But the dragon had not only looked at him, it had chosen him in a way words could not describe. He slipped from his narrow bed and crept through the empty corridors. The hangar smelled of oil, metal, and heat. Everything was quiet, except for a low hum that grew as he approached Aurelian's resting place. The dragon's scales shimmered faintly under the dim morning lights, as if acknowledging his presence. Alric reached out again, touching the smooth metal along its neck. A warmth spread into his hand, a steady pulse that seemed alive. "You're awake again," he whispered. "I didn't wake you. You woke yourself." The dragon shifted slightly, enough for Alric to feel its weight press against the floor, but it did not move aggressively. Then, in a sound almost like a sigh, a subtle vibration pressed against Alric's mind. He understood the meaning without words. "I trust you." Alric's heart skipped. Trust from a dragon that no human had ever bonded with? It felt impossible. Yet here it was undeniable. He spent hours there learning to move with the dragon's rhythm, understanding the micro-shifts of its limbs, the faint currents of energy that flowed through its metal and core. Unlike the engineers who treated dragons as machines to control, Alric learned to observe, to respond, to care. Every small adjustment mattered. A gentle brush of a hand, a soft murmur, a pause to allow the dragon to shift on its own. Days passed in secret. Alric avoided the engineers, avoiding suspicion, learning to communicate with Aurelian through thought and presence. Other dragons remained distant, cold, and mechanical. Only Aurelian responded. But slowly, over time, subtle changes began. A wing twitch here, a head tilt there. The dragons began to notice him. They had never moved without a pilot's commands before. One evening, while the hangar was nearly dark, Alric dared to test the limits. He touched the console near Aurelian and whispered, "Can you follow me?" The dragon's eyes glowed faintly, amber against the darkness. It lifted its head slowly, then moved its massive body in a careful, fluid motion toward him. Alric's pulse raced. No human had ever guided a dragon without interface codes, commands, or signals. But here the dragon obeyed him because it wanted to. Aurelian nudged him gently with its metal snout, a question rather than a command. Alric laughed softly, a sound of wonder. "Yes, I can take you out of the hangar." Quietly. Together they moved. Alric guided Aurelian through maintenance tunnels and shadowed corridors, avoiding the watchful eyes of guards. His mind learned to read the dragon's thoughts, not language but patterns of desire, comfort, fear, and curiosity. Every small detail mattered. By the time they reached an empty launch bay, Alric's secret became clear. No pilot, no command code, no weapon system could make a dragon act like this. Only understanding. Only connection. He stood beneath Aurelian's immense head, feeling the warmth and weight of living metal. "You're not like the others," he said. "You're different. You don't want to destroy. You just want to be." The dragon's reply was subtle, a wave of calm thought. "Yes. And I will follow where trust leads." Alric realized something else. It was not only Aurelian who needed him. He needed Aurelian too. Every day spent in the cold corridors, ignored by everyone, Alric had felt small, useless. Yet here, in this connection, he had purpose. Someone, or something, relied on him. And it was mutual. They spent weeks in secret, practicing, learning. Alric could not fly the dragon. It was far too large and powerful. But he could guide it. He could communicate with subtle gestures, shifts in posture, and steady presence. Other dragons watched, curious and restless, yet distant. The secret bond grew into a kind of quiet legend, unknown to anyone but the two of them. One evening, a storm rolled over the city. Thunder shook the hangar roof. The lights flickered and went out entirely. Alric's heart leaped. In the darkness, Aurelian stirred, restless. He approached the dragon, placing a hand against its neck. "Calm," he whispered. "It's just the storm." The dragon's body relaxed under his touch. But then something new happened. A subtle vibration rippled through the floor, a low hum that spread to other dragons. One by one they lifted their heads slightly. Eyes glowed faintly in the dark. The machines were awakening. Alric froze. This was not supposed to happen. Not yet. No human had ever caused this. Aurelian nudged him, urging caution. Alric nodded. He had to stay calm. He could not let panic spread to the dragons. They were learning from him. He had to remain steady. He whispered, "Easy. Just easy." The other dragons began to settle. The hum faded, replaced by a quiet, steady rhythm. Aurelian's eyes glowed softly, and Auric understood something profound. He was not alone in this. The bond he shared with Aurelian could affect the others, but only through patience, respect, and trust. Auric smiled. This was only the beginning. He could not tell anyone, could not explain it. But he had discovered a truth that no one else had remembered. Humans could connect with dragons in ways machines and codes could never. And that bond, quiet and invisible, was stronger than any weapon. From that night on, Auric knew one thing clearly. The Sky Dominion had dragons, but the dragons had him. And together, in secret, they would learn what it truly meant to be alive. Outside, rain struck the metal roofs and lightning flashed. Inside, beneath the hum of ancient engines, a boy and a dragon shared a secret that could change everything. And the first thread of a new legend began. Auric had learned to move quietly through the hangar, to speak softly to Aurelian, and to read the subtle shifts in the dragon's weight. But he never imagined the trial that would come. It began with an alarm that shattered the usual hum of the Sky Dominion. Red lights flashed across the corridors, and loud sirens echoed through every hangar. Auric froze, heart pounding. He had never heard this sound before. The engineers ran past him, shouting orders he could not understand. Commanders barked into communication devices, their faces pale with fear. An alien fleet had appeared above the city. Ships unlike anything human or dragon-made glimmered in the sky, dark and endless. Their energy signatures pulsed with a rhythm that seemed alive, intelligent. The Sky Dominion's dragons, massive and powerful, were supposed to defend the city. Yet the pilots could not make them act together. Systems failed. Codes conflicted. Confusion spread like fire. Auric's stomach tightened. He knew the dragons better than anyone. He ran to Aurelian's bay, ignoring the guards who tried to block him. "I have to go," he shouted. "I know what to do." "No human is allowed," a commander barked. "Step back." Auric ignored him. He reached Aurelian, placing his hand on the dragon's smooth metal neck. The warmth was immediate, familiar. He closed his eyes and whispered, "We have to protect them. All of them. Come. Focus." Aurelian's eyes glowed amber. The dragon lowered its massive head and let Auric climb onto a support platform near the cockpit. Not to ride, not yet, just to be closer. The other dragons began to stir, confused, waiting for commands that did not come. Auric realized then that they were listening. Not to the pilots but to him. Somehow they trusted him. Somehow they could feel his presence. He moved slowly along the edges of the hangar, speaking softly to each dragon. "Steady. Watch. Breathe." He did not command, he guided. He did not threaten, he reassured. Each word, each motion calmed the anxious metal giants. One by one the dragon's systems synchronized. Their wings flexed, engines hummed, and energy flowed through their cores in rhythm. Auric felt a strange mixture of fear and wonder. He was a boy, still small and overlooked, and yet he was controlling the most powerful weapons in the Sky Dominion without a single line of code. Outside, the alien fleet began to descend. Their ships glowed, firing pulses of energy that could have destroyed entire buildings. The trained pilots panicked, unable to react. The dragons, finally moving as one, rose to meet the threat, but only because Auric calmed them first. Aurelian turned toward him, tilting its massive head. Auric nodded, letting the dragon know he trusted it. Then, slowly, the dragon leapt into the air, wings unfurling, carrying the hum of power across the hangar. Other dragons followed, forming patterns that seemed almost intelligent, flowing as if led by a single mind. The city below trembled with fear and anticipation. Citizens watched from the streets as dragons filled the sky, their engines singing in harmony. The alien fleet fired, but the dragons dodged with precision, moving with speed and grace no human pilot could achieve. Auric guided them not with force but with presence. He breathed and they breathed. He paused and they paused. He felt every hesitation, every fear, every doubt, and he helped the dragons move past it. Hours passed like minutes. Energy beams lit the sky, but no dragon fell. Auric's small hands grew tired, his voice hoarse from constant murmurs, but he did not stop. He could feel the aliens adjusting, trying to break the rhythm, but the bond he shared with Aurelian, and now the other dragons, was stronger. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the alien ships hesitated. They pulled back, scanning, calculating, but the dragons did not waver. Auric sensed it before it happened. The aliens could not understand this bond. They had never faced a human who could guide creatures of pure power without force. They had never seen trust used as a weapon. With one last coordinated movement, the dragons formed a barrier in the sky, forcing the alien fleet to retreat. Engines roared, wings beat, and the city cheered below, though no one could know the truth of what had saved them. Auric climbed down from the platform, knees weak, hands trembling. The dragons landed again, settling gently, their systems glowing with a calm energy that had not existed before. Aurelian nudged him softly as if to say, "You did well." Commanders and engineers rushed forward, eyes wide. How did this happen?" one whispered. Another shook his head, muttering about miracles and impossible events. Auric looked at them but said nothing. He did not need recognition. He had learned something far greater. Humans could lead, guide and protect not with weapons or ranks, but with understanding. He had saved the city not because he was stronger but because he cared, because he connected with what no one else could. The aliens were gone for now. The dragons rested again, breathing gently, their amber and blue lights soft in the hangar. Auric touched Aurelian's neck one last time before slipping into the shadows. He did not need thanks. He only needed the bond to remain. Outside, the first rays of dawn broke over the city. Auric watched from the hangar roof as dragons flew silently above the rooftops, guardians in a world that still thought them machines. And beneath it all, a boy who no one noticed held the greatest power of all, not through control, not through fear, but through trust. And the trial was only the beginning. The city was quiet after the retreat of the alien fleet, but Auric felt no rest. He knew the threat was not gone, only delayed. He moved through the empty streets toward the hangar, his steps careful and measured. The dragons were waiting, their bodies still glowing faintly from the energy of battle. Auric climbed the platform to Aurelian's side. The dragon lowered its head, amber eyes soft but alert. "We did well," he whispered, though he did not feel victory. The city had been saved, yes, but the humans who ruled it had barely noticed his part. He was still a boy beneath everyone else, small and invisible, yet now the most important presence among dragons. Reports came in from the Dominion's towers. Other commanders panicked. The alien fleet had scanned the city, targeting humans specifically. They remembered something from long ago: humans were not ordinary creatures. Only humans could bond with the dragons, only humans could guide them beyond codes and commands. The aliens' calculations had failed for the first time in centuries. Auric's chest tightened as he listened to the engineers and commanders argue. They claimed victory but they did not understand it. They would never understand it. Only he knew the truth. Dragons could not be commanded by machines, by fear, or by titles. They only responded to trust, patience, and presence. Aurelian nudged him gently. Auric placed his hand on the dragon's smooth neck, feeling the warmth and strength flow into his palm. "I know," he said quietly. "I know what must be done." The Dominion tried to offer him a title. A new command. They wanted him to lead the dragons officially, to become their greatest commander. Auric shook his head. He would not be a puppet for those who only saw the dragons as weapons. "I will not lead," he said. "I only guide. I will never command." The dragons seemed to understand. Aurelian lowered its head and pressed against him lightly, as if confirming his choice. The other dragons, watching from their bays, shifted subtly. They did not need orders. They did not need titles. They only needed him. The alien threat returned sooner than expected. Scouts appeared in the sky, small ships with glowing edges. The Dominion prepared for war, assembling fleets and arming dragons with pilots who had never flown in battle. Auric ignored them. He moved through the hangar to Aurelian and whispered, "We protect, yes, but we do not destroy unnecessarily." Aurelian responded with a low rumble, moving to the hangar doors. Auric climbed onto the support platform and extended his arms. Other dragons followed, their engines humming in soft synchrony. No human was flying them, yet they moved as one. Auric felt the bond deepening with every step. Outside, the alien scouts approached cautiously. They seemed to sense the connection. Beams fired, but the dragons dodged effortlessly, guided not by missiles or computers, but by Auric's presence. Each movement was a silent signal, each breath a rhythm they followed. The Dominion watched in awe. Engineers whispered that it was impossible. Commanders shouted for the pilots to act. But nothing worked except what the boy and the dragons already knew. Auric's mind moved in tandem with Aurelian's. He felt the weight of each dragon, the shift of energy in every engine, the subtle hum of power flowing through their cores. He did not think about victory or fear. He only thought about calm, about trust, about guiding the dragons to protect without harming unnecessarily. The aliens attacked more aggressively, but the dragons held formation, moving as a single organism with a single thought. Auric felt every hesitation, every doubt, and sent reassurance through the bond. The sky became a dance of wings and light, a rhythm of survival and understanding. When the battle ended, the aliens retreated. The city was unharmed. The Dominion wanted to celebrate, to claim credit, but Alric did not care. He stood alone on the hangar platform, breathing in the calm air, feeling the quiet hum of dragons around him. No one came to congratulate him. No one asked if he was safe. And yet, he felt more powerful than anyone in the Dominion. Aurelian nudged him softly and he smiled. "We did it," he said. "Together. Just like we always will." Alric realized something important. The humans who ruled with fear and rules had forgotten what it meant to be truly strong. Power was not about weapons or codes or titles. Power was about understanding, about connection, about responsibility. A human could guide the greatest forces in the universe, not by forcing them but by earning their trust. He looked around at the dragons. They were awake, aware, and peaceful. They did not need orders. They only needed him. And he only needed them. From that day on, Alric became a figure unseen by the city but known to the dragons. They followed him in silence, guarding him as much as he guided them. The Dominion learned slowly, through mistakes and failures, that their greatest strength had been beneath their notice all along. The boy who stood alone was no longer lonely. He had dragons, the only beings who understood the bond he had discovered. And as long as he remained true to that bond, no fleet, no army, no alien threat could overcome them. Even the leaders of the Dominion had to accept it, quietly, in their hearts. They could not command what they did not understand. Only Alric could guide the dragons, and only humans like him could shape the future in ways that machines, fear, and power could never achieve. As night fell over the city, Alric walked through the hangar, touching the dragons gently, whispering soft words of calm. Outside, the stars reflected in their metal scales, and he knew one thing with certainty. The world had not seen the last of the trials, but as long as trust and understanding existed, humans would always rise. And the boy who once worked beneath the metal beasts now stood at the center of a legend no one else could write. The city was quiet again, but this time it felt different. The sun rose over rooftops and hangars, glinting off the dragon's metal scales. Alric walked among them, his hands brushing against warm, living metal. He had guided them through storms, battles, and fear, and now they rested peacefully. The Dominion leaders had tried to give him titles, medals, even control of the dragon forces. Alric refused every offer. "I will not command," he told them. "I only guide when needed." They did not understand, and some called him foolish. But he knew the truth. Leadership was not about orders or fear. Leadership was about trust, connection, and care. Alric returned to the stables beneath the hangar, where he had once slept unnoticed. Now it felt like home. The dragons followed him without hesitation, each one recognizing the boy who had saved them and the city without ever seeking glory. Aurelian lowered its head, nudging him gently. Alric smiled and rested his hand on its smooth neck. He began teaching the other humans in small ways. Not through weapons or commands but through observation. Engineers learned that the dragons responded to calm, to patience, to presence. Pilots learned that rushing, shouting, or forcing machines only led to failure. The Dominion began to see a new path. Humans could work with dragons, not against them. Citizens noticed the change too. Patrols were calmer, the city more secure, yet less oppressive. Dragons flew over rooftops, not as weapons but as guardians. Children pointed and laughed at the sight, feeling wonder instead of fear. Alric never appeared in public. He did not need recognition. His work was not about fame. It was about balance. One evening, Alric stood on a platform overlooking the city. The sky was painted with orange and pink, and the dragons circled above in perfect harmony. Aurelian landed beside him, wings folding silently. "We have done well," Alric whispered. "But we must remain ready." A quiet hum ran through the dragons. Alric felt it through his fingertips. They were awake, alert, aware of every motion, yet calm. The bond he shared with them had grown deeper, invisible but powerful. No alien fleet, no enemy, no force could overcome it. And yet, he understood that power was not for destruction. It was for protection, guidance, and understanding. Alric visited each dragon individually, whispering soft words, checking their systems, but more importantly, connecting. Each one responded differently, some nudging him, some vibrating gently, all showing trust. It was a new age, not of fear or control, but of partnership. Humans and dragons could coexist. They could protect, guide, and learn from each other. The Dominion tried to adapt. They built training programs, but Alric refused to teach them to command. Instead, he showed them how to observe, to listen, to respect. It was difficult for many. Pride, arrogance, and impatience slowed them. But Auric remained patient. He had learned that true understanding could not be rushed. One day, scouts reported a small alien vessel near the city's outskirts. Commanders panicked, but Auric did not. He stood with Aurelian and the dragons at the edge of the hangar. "We observe first," he said quietly. "We act only if needed." The vessel approached, scanning but did not attack. Auric extended his hand toward the dragons. A subtle hum passed through them. They rose silently, wings glinting in the sunlight, but moved with calm precision. The alien ship paused, perhaps sensing the bond between human and dragon. Then slowly it turned away, retreating into the dark sky. The Dominion leaders whispered among themselves, astonished. The city had been protected without a single shot fired, without a single human pilot risking themselves unnecessarily. Auric had guided the dragons not through force but through presence. That night the city slept peacefully. Auric returned to the stables beneath the hangar, Aurelian resting beside him. The other dragons settled in their bays, calm and alert. Auric leaned back on his narrow bed, exhausted but content. For the first time he felt that the world could change, that humans could rise not by dominating but by understanding. Days turned into weeks. The hangar became a sanctuary, not just for dragons but for humans who wished to learn the true way to protect and guide. Auric worked quietly, teaching, observing and bonding. He never sought recognition, only trust. The Dominion began to accept it. Slowly, reluctantly, they saw that their greatest strength had not been the dragons themselves, nor the weapons or the fleets, but the human ability to connect, to understand, to guide. Auric had shown them that power could be gentle, that strength could be patient, that leadership did not need a crown or a title. Aurelian nudged him gently one evening and Auric whispered, "We've started something new. Something lasting." The dragon responded with a soft vibration of approval, its eyes glowing warmly. Around them the other dragons shifted slightly as if agreeing. From that day forward, the city watched silently as dragons patrolled the skies, humans trained in observation moved among them, and peace lasted not because of fear, but because of understanding. Auric remained beneath the hangars, quiet and unnoticed, yet more powerful than any commander, general, or ruler. He had learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not steel, not fire, not code. It was trust, patience, and connection. And with those, humans could guide forces far greater than themselves without breaking them, without dominating them. The city slept beneath dragons who guarded, humans who learned, and a boy who had once been invisible. Auric had changed everything. He had shown that a single human, brave enough to care, patient enough to understand, and wise enough to guide, could shape a new age. The sun rose the next morning, casting light over hangars, rooftops, and flying dragons. Auric stood at the edge, hand resting on Aurelian's neck. The future was uncertain, but the bond they had built promised one thing: humans and dragons would face it together, not as rulers and tools but as partners. And so the new age of command began, not with titles, not with force, but with trust, understanding, and the quiet courage of a boy who once worked beneath the metal beasts.